Did you do well in school?
I did.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Who were you in high school?
I was a little confused because I had transplanted into St. Louis as a sophomore after 6 years in a small town in Western Pennsylvania. So who I was a little muddled, but I played soccer.
More muddled than most people's?
Well, in retrospect, no. And I did a fine job of hiding it, for sure. I don't think anybody who knew me then would have been like, oh yeah, Steven was so muddled in high school. I was in honor society. I was involved in like the pep rallies and stuff like that. I was enthusiastic about where I went to school. Like I said, I played varsity sports and then tested off the charts and got a full scholarship to college, but never bothered acquiring good habits of work. And so I ended up dropping out of college pretty quick.
No way.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Wow. As you were telling this story, I thought, man, I've always been jealous of the people that were so good at joining things and having school spirit because they were so much more connected. And me, I was like, get me out of here. I still had friends and stuff, but I just didn't join clubs. I didn't go to the meetings. I didn't find out what time they were. And then I hear you say like got in there and wasn't ready for it.
No, it provided a structure for me because I didn't have those habits. The high school was like the perfect academic environment and honestly the perfect athletic environment for me too. When a coach yelled at me, I worked harder. So part of why I floundered after high school was I didn't have the coach like requiring me to be to practice for 3 hours a day every day.
Oh.
And it took me until probably my mid to late 20s until I reacquired good habits of fitness, reading, etc. And I ended up going back to college in my late 20s, early 30s, and then finished.
What were you doing in the meantime?
Waiting tables. Got in the restaurant business, playing a lot of volleyball. I traveled around the Midwest playing like...
That didn't even sound real. Playing a lot of volleyball?
Yeah, from 93 to 97, I probably spent 35, 40 hours a week playing volleyball.
So you were the kind of guy that could hit the ball and make it hurt if it pounded on you.
I was in doubles and sand volleyball. It's less of we call it a goon game. It was less of a goon game of like the big monster guys who can crush it. And so you had to have all of the skills. You had to be able to pass, set, and hit, and play defense. And I could do that. I was athletic enough and small enough. And I could still jump well enough to compete with the big boys. But sand, the equalizer for me was the sand. When I got indoors, the guys who were 6'6" and 6'7" and could hurt you with the ball just dominated. But I had an advantage because I was quicker on the sand. And so I dedicated a substantial portion of my life in my 20s to that. I had aspirations.
This is like every weekend on the beach and
oh yeah, I mean it was on the beach, no, on sand courts in the municipalities off Hanley Road or YMCA sand court. Like it was all Midwest.
Okay.
I would travel to Chicago, Kansas City, Memphis, Louisville, St. Louis, Columbia.
And if you were to put that into like the belt system, right? You know, white belt being total novice, black belt being expert. Are you familiar? Yep. Then blue, purple, brown. Mm-hmm. So where would you put yourself at in the sand volleyball world?
Just shy of if we say that the guys in California who are on the AVP tour are your 8th degree black belts, the ones who are getting invitations to the Olympics, who get sponsored by Pacific Sun, stuff like that.
Right.
Those are your black belts. Then there's a tier of sort of satellite pro tours in the United States, or there was then. There was one in Michigan, up and down like Grand Haven and that coast of Michigan.
Yeah, sure.
Up into Traverse City. So it was like a little 6 or 7 stop tour up there. And that was the second best money. And but the drop off was astounding. Like the pros are winning $70,000 to $200,000 for a win. The stuff in Michigan is like $5,000. And then there's a Colorado tour. And so we dialed that back to like $2,000 for a win.
So you were playing up in Michigan for the 5?
Never. I aspired to it and never got there.
Okay.
Never got there. Decided my priorities in my late 20s shifted, started having a lot of fun. Still was making nice money waiting tables and just never quite got over the hump. And it was absolutely a set of choices that was like, it was fun. I'm having a good time, but I don't want to take the next step in terms of commitment because I have other things.
So as you're living the life of going around and doing beach volleyball and hanging out, being fit, hot summer, you're waiting tables. You said you're making money. When you're in your 20s, are you like, I have got this figured out?
Oh no, absolutely not. I don't even think I dared consider uttering those words until I was probably married with a kid and in my late 30s. Then I started to sort of settle and find myself and contemplate like I've got this figured out in the sense that I know where I want to go with things. I was very much just sort of being swept along by enjoying myself.